Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Let Her Cook, brought to you by BSCN. I am here live in my kitchen. My name is Jackie Dutton if you are brand new here, and if you are not, welcome back. As usual, the general order of events is I cook something and then I deliver some spicy takes, usually around crypto topics, financial news, and just some general current events and whatever's going on and coming to mind. So today we are going to make chicken pot pie, and one of the cool things about this dish is that it all comes together in a skillet, and fairly easy to make. You can do this with some quick shortcuts, and I'm going to talk about those as well. But it is cold outside, and I am greatly looking forward to this dish. It already smells really good in here because I've been pre-baking the chicken so it wouldn't take forever. All right, so we're going to get started on this, and then we are going to also just kind of talk about some general crypto things. I am preheating my skillet. We're going to start with our veggies, and I am going to double check that this chicken is fully cooked real quick. I have a meat thermometer. If you don't have one of these, this will literally save your life from getting salmonella one day, if that happens to you. If you've ever been sick from that, you know you never want that to happen again. All right, so I'm going to pull this out of the oven. And chicken needs to be at 165 or higher in order to be fully cooked. So put this in here, and we are at 180, so perfect. This is also a really good, we're at the holidays, and I know people are looking for gifts to give. If you know someone who cooks or someone who may have almost killed you with undercooked meat, this is a good gift. It might be seen as kind of snarky if you give it to them if they almost killed you, but this is a really nice stocking stuffer. They're like anywhere between 10 and 20 bucks. You can get them at Home Goods or on Amazon, but really a big fan of the meat thermometer. It's just taking out a lot of guesswork. You know what I mean? So we are going to start with a little for this, the beginning of the veggies here. And I'm just going to melt this stick of butter down. We don't want this to get too hot. It's kind of easy to burn butter. Start there. So as promised, if you were watching Monday's stream, I promised that I would watch the P. Diddy documentary, Sean Combs' The Reckoning. And I did. You're welcome. Might not sleep very well for the next couple nights. Yeah, basically, like, I'm sure everything you're hearing, good and bad, one way or another about it is true. We're going to start with the carrots, by the way, because carrots take longer to cook. But everything you have heard, good and bad, about the Diddy documentary is true. Just how disgusting he is. And then some things that I was really surprised to hear is that he's actually been a huge thief to any artist that has been on Bad Boy Records label. The documentary really exposes the people that were on the label and how they were saying that Bad Boy essentially promoted them, but they never got paid. And they certainly didn't see as much of their money as they should have. So I thought that was interesting. There's even a point where they talk about how after Biggie Smalls is killed, that P. Diddy went and he made this, Life After Death album or whatever. They still produced that. And when they were releasing it, he was still essentially billing Biggie Smalls and, the artist for studio time and things like that after he died. And then he also ended up firing like the CFO essentially of Bad Boy Records for refusing to re-alter the contract after Biggie had died that he had re-upped and signed just before he died in the first place, but they had given him everything he wanted. So anyway, the long and the short is he's a huge piece of shit. So, and I don't think anybody's like super surprised about it. But yeah, that. It is what it is, guys. In terms of crypto and financial news, we are looking forward to a rate cut today. Personally, I think this is going to be like a buy the rumor, sell the news. We've really seen kind of a nice uptick in Bitcoin and the crypto market in general over the last day. But I would be surprised if this holds and we don't see a little more volatility, but nothing super crazy. I feel like I need to clarify that. I don't think we're going to see like Bitcoin crash to 65 grand or something. I mean, I'm going to knock on wood that we don't see that, but I just don't think we will. Okay, I'm going to add the rest here. Okay. And then while this cooks, I'm going to cut up the chicken into cubes. So Art Basel is going on right now in Miami. And if you know anything about the NFT community, there is an artist with the moniker named Beeple. And Beeple is actually famous for his Everyday series where I think it was an NFT he made, but he made a daily piece of art. It's like a lot of weird shit, I'm going to be really honest, so this doesn't surprise me. But Beeple at Art Basel made robot dogs with heads of Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and Warhol, and they apparently poop NFTs. I'm going to have to put the knife down and figure out exactly how they poop NFTs. This tracks, though, like, if you follow any Beeple art, this tracks. I don't know if you can play the video, Ben, but let's see the video.
Yes, that is
The robot dog thing freaks me out in general, just because I've seen that episode of Black Mirror, and the robot dog one freaks me out. That's terrifying. I'd rather take a regular mean dog any day than a weird, bloodlusty robot dog. We're going to add a little more butter. Don't ever let a hater in your life tell you that something has too much butter. That's not a real thing if you have a soul. I have a personal conspiracy theory, actually, that marriages started declining when they told everybody that butter was bad and everyone switched to margarine. And then all of a sudden the divorce rate like skyrocketed. Feed your husband bacon and butter. I swear to God, he's not going anywhere. And you'll be happier too, as a wife. I promise. So this video is actually hysterical.
I'm more confused about how people got a hold of these robot dogs because they're pretty expensive. They're made by Boston Dynamics. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Well, let me go to the article here. The interactive installation is titled Regular Animals, and it's on a show through December 7th, so it was earlier this week. And it was part of Art Basil's program for new digital works, 010. The robots would roam the floor, their cameras capturing scenes from the fair, which are processed into stylized prints tied to the identity on each mask. Project materials indicate that some of those images contain codes that allow visitors to claim NFTs, linking the physical print to a token on a blockchain. 1,024 free prints and 256 free NFTs were distributed last week on Wednesday. And the argument is we're increasingly seeing the world through the lens of how they would like us to see it, because they control these very powerful algorithms and they have unilateral control over how we see the world in many ways. That I would agree with. Has anybody noticed even the comment section of certain videos is dependent upon your algorithm and your personal account and what you see and look at? Because my husband and I could be watching the same video and sometimes the comments are completely different that come to the top. I don't know. I just feel like the old days, you remember the good old days where your feed was in chronological order, and when you got to the end, you were like, okay, I'm done with the crack cocaine that it has become lately. And you would put it down and you would walk away and you post your shitty food picture that was blurry and nobody cared and it was fun and you just liked each other's stuff. And instead now we have total domination of these platforms. All right, we're just gonna give this enough of a chop. I do like slightly thicker pieces. Also, if you're watching, please don't let me forget to add the frozen peas. They are in the freezer. I haven't pulled them out yet, but I do intend to add frozen peas to this. Okay. So fun fact about me, I try to eat as gluten-free as possible, so this is going to be gluten-free as well. And I bet you're thinking, how are you going to thicken the sauce, like make this gravy type thing with no flour? I'm going to show you. So we're going to start with some butter again. I'm just going to add the rest of this. And we're going to get a little fat here going. Cook this down. And then I'm going to add potato starch. And this is going to be like 2 tablespoons worth. Again, I don't measure. If you're looking for measurements, watch somebody else's show. I don't measure here, and that's part of the charm. This is real life. Okay, so I'm going to mix up the butter in here, and then we're going to add the potato starch. So it's going to look like it like dries it out, and it kind of does. And what we're looking for is kind of like a little paste, essentially, that gets created between the fat that's been left on the veggies and is still cooking, and the potato starch. You could also use something like cornstarch. I haven't tried gluten-free flour because they are not all made alike. Gluten-free flour, some is like a rice blend, others it have like tapioca in them. They're not all the same. Okay, so once you make sure that the veggies are kind of like coated in the potato starch, we are going to add actual chicken broth. Today, if you don't follow along, I usually use water and chicken bouillon, but we're going to use real chicken broth today. So I'm going to add a little bit of this at a time. And you're gonna want to see this like kind of congealed, like slurry happen. And we're gonna add a little more chicken broth. So naturally, this will start to make kind of like a very like opaque, like a jelly kind of gravy looking thing. And you could stop here. I'm gonna season this really quick, and then we're gonna add a little heavy cream. Let's see, add a little salt, pepper, and I'm gonna add poultry seasoning. Because we want this to have like a lot more flavor than just, you know, salt, pepper, and veggies. Stir this up. And I'm gonna get the frozen peas while peas. I love peas. Okay, so I'm gonna add this. I'm also gonna add a little more chicken broth just because I want it a little more like gravy-ish. You could also add, if you didn't have half and half, you could add like a can of like cream of chicken or cream of celery soup. And I think that would go a long way as well. We're gonna incorporate this and get it real gravy looking. And this is gonna come together really nicely. Okay. So now that this has happened, we're gonna add the chicken. And I am gonna talk about something else here. Okay, so prediction markets, it came out the other day that it looks like prediction markets are actually kind of faking their volume. And this isn't that big of a surprise, but there is an article on Protos, that talks about how polymarket volume misrepresented or misreported its data providers and it double counts trades, according to this report. The report, which came from Paradigm's research partner, Storm Slivkoff, detailed how many data providers were relying on counting the number of order-filled events that were emitted from the polymarket contract. However, when a trade occurs on polymarket, there are actually two order-filled events, one for the marker, and one for the taker. The data problem isn't related to any wash trading that occurs on polymarket, but is simply a result of failing to appropriately account for how the smart contract emits these events. That's actually kind of a huge issue. I don't like a huge smart contract issue, and I don't know if they can go back and fix that. So Paradigm, if you don't know who that is, they are one of the largest VCs within the crypto space. So it's funny that their auditor was the one to catch this, because it means that Paradigm's probably looking to invest in polymarket and they're doing their own due diligence. So the fact that they caught this is interesting because it kind of means that they're looking to add more. So maybe polymarket's still fundraising, which would mean they're adding to the platform. I don't know. Add
And this isn't like dry. Once in a while, we get a pot pie that's like a little on the drier side. We're just gonna keep adding chicken broth and cream until I like the way it looks. But there was a response from, I don't know if this guy works at Poly Market, but he has the Poly Market affiliate badge. By the way, fun news update. We are a partner with Poly Market, so this is fucking slander as far as I'm concerned. Absolute garbage news. Just a second. Hey, no. Thank you. We have this camera. Great. Follow me. Perfect. But our Poly Market partnership has actually come through. So now when you watch the show on Mondays, you are going to see a fun episode that will only feature Poly Market. We also have an affiliate link for anybody who is interested in signing up for an account. That is usually included on any video I post that features a topic about a prediction within a Poly Market prediction market topic. So feel free to go ahead and click that link, sign up, and always bet responsibly, do your own due diligence, that kind of thing. But, you know, it just seems to be like the fun way to use a prediction market that's also a crypto platform. I'm gonna add these peas. Smells so good. Okay. The heat down to low. So I forgot to mention this. You will want to preheat your oven here to 350 degrees. Mine has been on because I cooked the chicken in it. And this is just going to be nice and full today. I'm so excited to eat this. Lastly, we're going to add a little more chicken broth here, just so it stays really nice and moist. So the nice part about this dish is that once you add the puff pastry topping, you could do this a couple ways. You could get a dish and you could do a bottom layer of puff pastry. You'd want to poke some holes in that, and then you could top it with a layer of puff pastry as well. But that turns out like very bready and not quite as nice and creamy. So we are just going to do one top layer of this. Here. We are going to take this off the heat and clean my knife off. In other prediction market news, there was a tweet I saw about Kalshi in particular changing or adding a possibility of doing a delay when people would place a bet. So this would essentially negate, let's say that you go to a bet and you can see that the timing is closing in 5 minutes. There's a lot of volume on the platform that typically comes from that like last 5, 10, 15, 30 minutes. But if they do place a delay, it would mean that all of that very like last minute trading of any of those prediction markets then becomes null and void, or people wouldn't be able to place the bet, essentially. Which at a casino, I mean, you have, you only have a certain amount of time before you can place a bet. for a lot of sporting events, you can't place a bet until or after the game starts, after kickoff in the NFL, for instance, or tip off in basketball, so on and so forth. But this would be kind of like shooting themselves in the foot. I don't know if this would actually be the best move for them. Okay. So I'm just going to cut this up into squares or just like little slices, and then we're just going to layer it over the dish here. So this should be nice and easy. And then we're going to coat it in an egg wash so it gets that nice like golden color. And obviously this doesn't have to be perfect. My husband will eat it either way, and so will I. He's very forgiving that way. Let's see. I guess the ultimate question, though, about these prediction markets here is that the insider trading that's clearly going on, we talked about one on Monday where a guy is clearly a Google employee because he bet on the top search result list of Google and, the most searched people. And he went something like 22 out of 23 on his correct bets. Well, now, because Polymarket is on chain and you can view all of this yourself, they're going out of their way to find other people who seem to have a crazy win rate over one particular topic. So they have found another guy who has gone 100% on all of his open AI bets, and whether or not they'll release a particular model or update, things like that. And clearly it's someone who works there. No one seems to give a shit who works at these companies. No one seems to care one way or another about whether or not this is legal, or just because it's obviously clearly insider trading. Here's the thing. If you had the answers to a test and you cheated on that test, but you wanted to make it look like you didn't cheat on that test, you would at least like get an answer or two wrong, right? If you were hoping to not raise suspicion. But when you go 100% on any kind of bet, people start to ask some questions. That's really what starts attracting attention. And this is fucking ridiculous. Honestly, nobody cares. I think at the end of the day, though, there's so much other corruption going on, so much other like thievery, tomfoolery, fuckery, whatever. And I just think it's just small fish to fry at the end of the day. I think people are like, yeah, whatever, you're an employee and you're gaming the system at the place that you work. I don't know if anyone cares. I think they're just going to leave it up to that company on whether or not they punish whoever this is doing stuff like this. Okay, so the cool part about doing the puff pastry like this is that you don't need to poke holes in it. If you were just laying the sheet over the top and going to cook it, you would need to poke holes so that it aerates a little bit. But I'm going to get an egg wash going. And all this is a cracked egg. And you could also use like butter or oil or something. But an egg wash will leave a really, really pretty golden color. I don't have one of those little paint brushes, but I do have a spatula, so we're gonna try this. I'll just drizzle this on here Might need to invest in one of the little paintbrush things. Okay. Sorry, I'm concentrating super hard on this and I don't know why. Okay. And grab my hot mitt, and then we're gonna place this in the oven for, let's see what the directions say. This is if you were making like Pop-Tarts or something. The one recipe I saw before this said when you get to this part, you just cook it until your whole house smells delicious, whatever that means. So my house already does smell delicious, so we're just gonna throw this in and see. But my guess is I've got about 20 minutes, so we will chat and clean while this happens. Let me know in the chat if you are like a clean as you go kind of person or not. I would prefer to be a I cooked you clean kind of person, but I'd be waiting quite a while for that to happen. And this way. Okay, so let's talk about some other topics here while we wait for the delicious chicken pot pie. Okay. There's been a lot of news about Japan lately. I'm going to drop this link into the chat here. This link says Japan plans a major shift as crypto moves from payments to securities law. I also saw there was some kind of tax incentive for this. So Japan's financial regulators are preparing to move crypto asset oversight out of the country's payments regime and into a framework designed for investment in securities markets. Their FSA on Wednesday released a comprehensive report from their Financial Systems Council working group on the regulatory status of cryptocurrencies across multiple sectors. So they're just looking to kind of shift their legal basis for crypto regulation. And ultimately, I think this ended up being something that was talked about a lot from the change of administration from the, hey, kids. Thank you, sir. I think this ended up being something that got talked about a lot within the last administration to this one. How we had a lot of discussions about whether or not crypto belonged under the umbrella of the SEC or if it was the CFTC, which is the Commodities Futures Trading Commission. Ripple found itself in the lawsuit that it did because the CFTC classified Bitcoin and Ethereum originally as commodities. And then the SEC slapped Ripple with a lawsuit and said, you're a security. You need to pay all of these fines and fees and basically stop working. And Ripple said, well, wait a minute. How did you come to the conclusion that Bitcoin and Ethereum are commodities and we are a security? And the SEC was like, oh, we're just not going to tell you. And they refused for years to publish their documentation or their reasoning for why they did that. And consequently, a judge ruled in Ripple's favor more than once about how they didn't deserve to be classified as a security when they couldn't define why Ethereum wasn't one in the first place. So, you know, all of these are just kind of like legal semantics and just providing different oversight, but obviously being regulated as a commodity in America, at least, comes with a lot less hoops to jump through and a lot less scrutiny than being a security, especially if you were a crypto. So it looks like this is something that's starting to take hold in Japan. And I think that's good. Hey, have you decided to just hijack the attention today? This dog. Do you guys get your dogs a present for the holidays? Because this fool, he doesn't. He goes to the vet. That's enough of his very expensive regular Christmas presents. He's alive. And he gets expensive fancy food and all the attention and love that he could possibly be given. Let's see, another thing is the teachers union claims that their risks to their retirement funds are in crypto market structure. Apparently, they wrote a letter to the U.S. Senate Banking Committee and cited opposition to the digital asset market structure bill, echoing concerns from other labor groups. I'm kind of wondering if maybe Elizabeth Warren has something to do with this, because she's really in tight with the labor unions, and she's such a crypto hater. I wouldn't be shocked if she somehow like prompted this. And then the article goes on to say that Trump is addressing crypto in retirement funds through executive orders. As far as I was aware, though, this has to pass a collective vote. It isn't like they just immediately go ahead and add that. I think the people within the labor union have to say about what they add to their portfolio. Okay. Well, let's find something a little more fun. Let's see. I'm gonna drop this in the chat for Ben to post. According to Protos, the new Binance CEO, Yihei, already had her phone hacked. Bozan. I swear to God, these dogs today. The article says, last week, Yihei became co-CEO of Binance. This week, hackers overtook her WeChat to pump and dump a meme coin. No shock there, right? I just feel like scammers and hackers need a new trick. If it's always just a meme coin, this is getting stupid. And who keeps buying the meme coin? The people who think that they can run it up before it comes crashing back down. You typically don't win this kind of argument in the meme coin world. It's usually the people who launched it that are going to clean the fuck up on you, and you are not going to make any money from this, just for the record. But it goes on to say that despite helming a company with a valuation in the tens of billions of dollars, the company's security budget was unable to protect her social media account from a rudimentary takeover. The hacker had a budget of just a few $1,000s and was easily able to accumulate a large position in whatever the meme coin was, with a market cap beneath $2 million. After benefiting from her unauthorized yet convincing WeChat endorsement, the hacker then sold shortly after the peak valuation near $5 million. So they at least doubled their money. And then it says CZ steps up for damage control. He says Web2 social media is not that strong. So we're blaming social media now. Okay. She did release some statement saying my WeChat was hacked. My WeChat was abandoned long ago and the phone number was seized for use. It cannot be recovered at present. I say this often. I do a weekly Twitter space with some friends, and I talk about how scammers are the crackheads of crypto. Crackheads don't wake up and decide that they're going to get a job and earn, slow going money at an hourly rate so that they can pay for their problem. Crackheads wake up and look for the quickest way, like stealing copper, in order to accumulate quick money to get their fix. The scammers in crypto are the same way. They work much harder at trying to scam you than they ever will at actually getting a job. If we were able to finally condense the energy and the hustle of a scammer and put it towards a positive outcome, we could probably achieve something amazing. But the problem is that they don't want to do that. They just want to steal from you. So you will need to keep that in mind as you go through life, especially as you go through the crypto industry. So keep that in mind. Scammers or the crackheads of crypto, you have been warned. Some other like fun, safeguarding tips that I talk about all the time that we see often, especially if you are kind of new to this space or you don't necessarily know what you're doing when you have a DeFi wallet, something like MetaMask, Trust Wallet, Phantom, Moonshot, one of those, is you cannot click random links. And people randomly reaching out to you, asking you to help them with apps, with integration, with how things work, they know that you are not tech support, and you're not. You're not qualified to be doing something regardless of maybe how much ChatGPT has convinced you you are. But you are not the person to be providing this information for them that's necessary. Tell them to go find a tutorial on the internet. Everybody can figure it out. They're talking to you because they are trying to scam you, I promise, unless you actually know this person in real life. Do not respond to somebody who's just reaching out. The other thing is that most women in social media accounts in crypto, they're men. Most women don't reach out to you to want to talk to you, especially about crypto, especially ones that look like just filter to fuck and back on their pictures. Typically what's happening, and this has been exposed again and again throughout the crypto industry, there have been whole fake accounts of women, so a man stealing photos from a woman's like Instagram account, using them, posting them all over X as if they are their own, and then even getting like full sponsorship and affiliate deals with like exchanges. I think it was BitGet. It was one of the larger ones. I don't need to throw BitGet under the bus if it wasn't that. But there were a few in the past, large exchanges, very large, tons and tons of millions of dollars under their umbrella, if not billions. And they just didn't even do their own research. They looked at the account, they saw that it had a lot of followers and regular posts, and they awarded them some affiliate badge sponsorship. So I don't know exactly how you go about like asking someone on social media to prove that they are of their gender or who they say they are. Maybe it is worth doing a quick FaceTime just to be like, oh, hey, can you wave or at least send a picture like a hostage, with the date written on a piece of paper next to you, and just send that in. And if you can't produce that, maybe you are not who you say you are. Anybody willing to get money is going to be willing to do that if they're communicating with an exchange. So I think in crypto you need to be especially careful because most people would prefer to remain anonymous. Most people are not who they say they are. And then there are the other nefarious actors out there that are pretending to be someone that they are not in order to take from you. So just be very careful out there. There's usually some kind of stupid clusterfuck of like in this case, the Binance CEO, she probably had a weak password maybe for her WeChat account. Who knows? But again, the scammers are working very, very hard all the time. Unfortunately, not on anything positive. Okay, let's check this. This is gonna keep going. I've got this for another 7 minutes, but we'll see how this does. Okay. Let's see. So this other, let me go back to this. The next article down on this web on Protos says that Arkham is accused of misrepresenting Zcash data in a viral post. Blockchain analytics provider Arkham claimed that it had somehow de-anonymized some of Zcash's shielded transactions. From what I understand, Zcash is kind of like a Monero style, like a big privacy geared blockchain. So the transactions are usually how they do this with a blockchain like this is that they're kind of like little pools of maybe like 10 different addresses together, and money comes in and then it gets spit out, and it's essentially much harder to track who that is because it could be one of 10 or maybe multiple candidates where the money went into this window. So it's kind of like a Tornado Cash-ish system, except I do believe that there is a smaller pool of people that could be, whereas I think Tornado Cash is just kind of like a free-for-all. For people who don't understand, this is a decent topic. For people who don't understand what a mixer is, essentially, most of crypto is actually very, very transparent. You can see the date and timestamp, you can see the address it came from, you can see the amount, and it's all recorded on an immutable blockchain. So it's very transparent. It happens the second the transaction goes through, you see it. This is great for keeping a ledger of just about anything. The problem comes when people start to figure out who you are, and if you are transacting in large amounts, for instance, it would be very easy to trace you. So this idea that crypto is anonymous is for criminals, I don't know why criminals would be more inclined to use something like Bitcoin when they could just use cash. Because the second you have cash, unless somebody tracks the serial numbers of the bills, it would be very, very difficult to actually track somebody who's using it, changing out the denominations, spending it in various places that they're not going to be looking for this kind of, money or bills. So crypto is typically very easily traceable. But when it comes to something like a mixer, like Tornado Cash, if you can imagine one of those game show type machines where somebody goes into the whirlwind tunnel and they start spitting out $100 bills, and people have to jump and they have to catch like as many dollar bills as they can. Essentially, a mixer is kind of like that machine where transactions from addresses are coming in through that mixer, and then the money is being spun out, and it's essentially trying to figure out who put money in and who took money out. Unless it's almost an identical amount, it's very hard to trace because it's like the blockchain transaction and the crypto is essentially being spun around in this funnel. And it would be the equivalent of you trying while you're in this tunnel to find the exact bill with the exact serial number on it, essentially. So using a mixer is usually pretty difficult unless there's a situation like there's been a very large hack and they're having to move a ton of money that is normally not coming in and out of that mixer. Privacy blockchains work in kind of a similar fashion, but sometimes there's a built-in trust system where it can go into a smaller group. Let's say there's like 10 people and they all have their money pooled. But occasionally, and Vitalik Buterin, I think, has suggested something like this, where it's still anonymous, but those 10 people, they have the option to say, no, you cannot actually withdraw your funds if they feel that it came from some kind of nefarious place. So if a hacker was trying to essentially launder their money through this particular avenue, the users could collectively band together and be like, no, we're going to freeze your assets because it came from a hack or, an illegal place, essentially. So Zcash is a privacy-focused blockchain. I'm not quite sure how they totally do it, but Arkham is kind of known for attempting to be the directory of whoever's crypto address. So when you go to Arkham, you can look up countries' crypto addresses. You can look for individual crypto addresses. Trump has a crypto address everybody knew about for a while on there, and various people. And you can essentially like out someone and their crypto address if you know who it is, and you can submit that data to Arkham. So it's essentially a network of snitches. And you know, on some aspects, it's like kind of cool to see. We were all laughing when Germany dumped their Bitcoin. And we can see things like that because of Arkham. But they claimed to have de-anonymized some of the Zcash shielded transactions. So if you're using Zcash, you want to remain anonymous, you want it to be private, and here's Arkham attempting to out them for this. Arkham claimed to have labeled more than half of Zcash's shielded and unshielded transactions, naming the individuals and the institutions responsible for the majority of the data on the blockchain. The post immediately earned multiple community notes, X's volunteer fact-checking system. The top two notes disputed the claim that Arkham had de-anonymized the transactions. They only provide data for the remaining like 80-ish% of transparent transactions. And it says the second community note agreed that Arkham did nothing groundbreaking here, despite the clickbait title. Okay. So it looks like on Zcash, this is interesting. You have the opportunity to make it a private transaction or keep it a public transaction. So that's a pretty cool feature. So it was fake news at the end of the day. Fake news. I'm gonna grab the camera here. I love how it looks like I'm like swearing on a Bible when I do that. Okay, we're gonna keep cooking this, and I'm gonna give this another. Honestly, I should just like broil this so we can speed this up. Okay, and yeah, lastly, while this finishes up, I know we will have a rate cut today, but it is usually in the afternoon. At some point, it's usually around like 2 or 3 Eastern. And supposedly Trump has his short list of people that he wants to recommend for Fed chair, and good luck to him. He's of all the shit he's talked about people, he's really talked an exceptional amount of shit about Jerome Powell, considering what he does. I did see that Domer, the guy who he was on 60 Minutes for being like one of the top poly market traders, he was kind of weighing in on whatever his thoughts were with Trump picking a particular Fed chair, and he felt, and this guy actually has like a long history and education and resume full of actually like financial Wall Street, that kind of thing. So he knows what he's talking about, but he felt that the Fed chair was actually one of the most important jobs within the government, more so than any other kind of cabinet position and things like that. So for Trump to have any kind of sway and pull over this could maybe not be a great thing if it's somebody just willy-nilly doing it the direction of whatever he wants. We'll see. But there is another bet about Jerome Powell being out. It doesn't look like that's going to happen before the end of 2025. But will he retire after or before something like March? I believe that bet exists on Polymarket. So you can click the link that we have, set up an account, because we are a partner, and you can also make a Polymarket account and play along with us. Okay, I'm just going to change this real quick to get like a nice browned crust. I'm always so scared to use the broiler because I feel like you could burn shit so easily. So we're gonna use the broiler, but you know, you have to watch it basically. The broiler is like the toddler of your oven. It's always gonna be up to some shit. Yesterday, my sister FaceTimed me, and my niece had gotten into the Christmas gift I had already sent. My sister hadn't wrapped it yet, and she like dug through my sister's closet and had found it. Luckily, she was being very cute about the fact that she loved this gift. So it's whatever. I don't care. But yeah. All right. So I think we're gonna wrap this up. I do wish that this would hurry up and go. Oh, this is happening. Okay, so we're gonna give this another like maybe 2 minutes, but it's working. It's working so well. Yeah, and basically every Monday and Wednesday live at 12 p.m. Eastern, we do a live stream. Monday is a quick and dirty 30 minutes of a prediction market, general crypto news, just kind of like an overview and a little bit of some yap. And then on Wednesdays, we do a cooking show. And you guys have a say as well. If you would like to see me make something in particular, we have, obviously, it is the holidays. So if there is any particular recipe that you love that you would like to see me try, we can also have just like a cookie day. I would be down for that as well. We could just do nothing but Christmas cookies. I'm not going to be happy about that on the treadmill later, but I will be totally happy about that while we cook it and then after I eat it. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know. This is just a super fun, easy way for us to all get together and talk some crypto and do something kind of unique. Okay. Yep. She went quick. Okay. It's so pretty. Okay, this is lovely. It's hot as shit. I definitely can't eat it right now. But we are going to wrap this stream up today. Thank you so much for watching. Let her cook. If you enjoyed the recipe for the chicken pot pie, I would be happy to include it below. I'm going to take a couple pictures and then I'm going to dive right in. But I'm not going to do that on stream. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys on Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Bye.